Welcome to another episode of the Tower 26B Race Ride Podcast. I'm Joe Mitsky here. Once again with Coach Gerry Rodriguez. Coach, how you doing, bud?
I'm good. How you doing?
Oh,
good to see you.
Good to be back in the air. We missed last week, but we are back on it this week, and we have a lot to talk about. There's so much going on, Jer. But the main part of this is going to be you. You're going to be starring in this episode.
Oh, wait, finally?
You're always starring in an episode,
Finally.
aren't you?
All right.
Why didn't we do last week? Oh, you were in Trinidad. How'd that trip go?
I had to go see the Pops and catch up with some of my Trini buddies.
There you go. So you're down there.
Not to be confused with training buddies.
The funny thing is, I looked at the episode stats, and all of a sudden, when you're down in Trinidad, our Trinidad numbers go up. Those guys are like number 10 on the planet right now for listening, and it's called because you were there.
Went up 100% from one to two people.
1 to 2. It's just you down there hitting download. But this exciting episode, like I said, we got a lot of informational, educational knowledge to get into on this show. So let's get right into it. What did we talk about last episode, Jer? Do you remember?
Posture.
Exactly.
I mean, the significance, what I saw in Tokyo with the marathon, what happened, those runners are slower than 3 hours going into 4 and 5 hours, what their posture was like. How does that relate to swimming? What do we see in swimming with posture? And is it the secret sauce?
Yeah,
right?
I think we were on to something on that one. You were at Oceanside last week at 70.3. We're going to get into that. We're going to get some takeaways that I have from our athletes as well as you took in on course. But did you see those athletes as they progressed through the run? Did you see that same thing? Did you see some of that posture lacking as the runs went on?
Well, especially on that course because it is a heavy cement course, right? I mean, there's so much running done on that boardwalk, and it's all cement, so it's super hard surface. So you could see towards the back half of the run, the last 4 or 5 miles or so, it's the slouch, right?
Yep. Yeah, for sure. And you look at the course from an overview.
Not with the pros though.
No, we saw all 4, 5, 6 guys running together, and I mean they were just dialed in. And one thing that we did notice, and we're going to talk about him a little bit later in the episode, is Lionel. I think he changed his stride a little bit. He's actually improved his efficiency a little bit as we looked at those videos later in the run. But it's cool to see those elite level athletes keeping it together, just like you noticed at the marathon. And it's so crucial to stay dialed in. And one thing we're going to talk about in this episode is things that you can control in early season racing. And one of them is that mindfulness, your technique. How are you executing every single stroke in the water, every single pedal stroke on the ride, every single running stride in the run? Maybe you're not the fastest or the strongest at this exact moment in the season, which you shouldn't be, but you are mindful as to how you're executing every second while you're on course.
Yeah, no, agreed. It's the time of the season where, we had some athletes, this was their first race last week, right?
Yep.
And then many of you guys that are listening, you may have your first race coming up. So some tips on what I call free time.
Yeah.
Where you can pick up several, even if you weren't training, and usually for the first race, many are underprepared, right?
Yeah.
Underprepared in a couple of ways, but underprepared from a full conditioning perspective. And if you're underprepared in that arena, how can you actually still benefit and cut several minutes off your time or make up what we call free time?
Yeah, and it's true.
And I'm gonna ask you the questions this time.
Well, let's get right into it because one of the places that we can find that free time is transition.
Exactly.
And I got pretty PO'd on Saturday. I was at the pool deck coaching. We had about 50 people in the water. And Amazon started swimming last weekend with us. We had a bunch of newbies in there. So they saw the raw side of Coach Jim because I got PO'd. I was getting updates on the ocean side. And, Jer,
I never want to get on your raw side, that's for sure.
You do not want to because I'm nice, but then when I'm not nice, right? It's yin and yang, baby. One side of the spectrum and the other side of the spectrum.
I don't think I've ever seen the not nice side. It
doesn't come out often.
Actually, I saw a touch of it once about a month ago, just for about 2 minutes. That was the only time.
I was reading quotes of things, I don't know what it was, something on social media. There's all this noise out there, but it was pretty good. It said the guys who are super nice, very gentle, believe me, they have a dark side too. And that dark side came out on the pool deck because we work hard, Jer. We work hard for every second. Our athletes commit. They're out there swimming, biking, running. They're away from their families. They have little kids, but they're committed to the process. They work their tails off for every second they're out there.
Yes.
And then they go in the transition, they lollygag. So one of our athletes had a great swim, right? Flew across the country, had a great swim, goes in the T1, 10-minute T1, Jer. 10-minute.
Did he take
T1?
Well, he just added a 0 onto T1, and that's what happened.
Well, it was unbelievable. Yeah, exactly. T10. But this athlete worked his butt off, and he actually PR'd by 45 minutes on the course. And there were some other reasons that the water was extremely cold. We actually had another athlete faint in T1 because of the blood pressure drop coming out of the cold water. This athlete was extremely affected by the cold, so it took him a little longer. But it's a good point to make. And when I was on the pool deck, I saw that he had a great swim, and I'm up there talking to the athletes as that transition time pops up, and I say, what the hell are we doing here? I'm not going to stay on top of you guys in the water if you're going to do this kind of thing and waste all that in T1.
Well, I want to go through the details with you. So
Yes.
Could we just dive right in?
Dive in. Let's go for it.
So let's be specific and make it race specific, because I gave this as a homework assignment, by the way, Jim, about 3 weeks ago to some of the athletes I was coaching in Santa Barbara. And their homework assignment was they had to write out in detail, step by step, the process of what their transitions, both transitions, were going to look like.
Right.
Down to every single detail. And then they had to memorize it. So let's go over, if I can, with you for Oceanside. I'm going to sort of take you through it. And then you can maybe put out to our listeners exactly the process to go through.
Yeah.
Number one, water is cold.
Water is cold. Exactly. How are you going to prepare for that water? What steps are you going to take, knowing that water's high 50s, maybe low 60s, most likely high 50s, but how are you affected by that cold? Do you need, and we have months, you're training for Oceanside for 6 months. Maybe you need a thicker wetsuit. Maybe you need to wait for Roka to have a sale over Christmas, over Hanukkah, over holiday time, and go get one of their thicker wetsuits, knowing that you have a race coming up and it's going to affect your cold. That's what I do. Big muscle Jack Diesel dude, I'm affected by cold. I would hyperventilate frequently. So what I did, I went in, I bought the thickest wetsuit that Roka had. Now I love swimming in the cold. I hate swimming when anything's above 60 degrees, but I knew I was affected by that, so I got a thicker wetsuit.
What about a cap? Any additional head coverage?
Now, that's another thing. If you can wear a cap, if you're comfortable with that strap under your chin, and you're also affected by the cold, sure, you can wear a cap, but that's something you have to practice and know going in, that you're confident that you can get halfway through a half Ironman swim or an Ironman swim and be fine with that chin strap. I can't do it. It cuts off the circulation of my brain, and I have limited brain cells as it is. So anything, that's cutting off any additional oxygen to the brain is not helping me. So I can't wear that. Maybe I'll wear 2 swim caps and not a neoprene cap. But if you can wear a neoprene cap, you've practiced it. Brian P. wears a neoprene cap in the pool every single workout. God knows why he does that, but
because he's Brian.
You got to practice it in the pool. Right?
What about earplugs?
Earplugs are another idea, another option. I like I like the sense of hearing. I don't like to have that cut off, so I don't do it. Some people would like to wear earplugs. Another thing you want to practice. Some people swim in earplugs in the pool every time because they're susceptible to ear infections, but that's something you want to practice.
What about adaptation to the cold prior to the start?
This is a great point, because it's not, and I actually wrote Lionel a couple of years ago because I was having success at my adaptation.
Lionel Sanders?
What I was doing, Lionel Sanders, because he was having the same issues I was having. He was having hyperventilation when he was starting in cold water. What I did is I got a tether from my backyard pool, and all winter, and obviously we can do it because we don't get freeze here, I was swimming every other day in the pool in my wetsuit with the tether on, but the water was low 50s. So I would swim 20
I remember
to 30.
He was swimming in his pool.
Yeah.
Was that you?
That was me. 20 to 30 minutes. I would swim on the tether with my wetsuit on. And I'm telling you, Gerry, the first couple minutes was absolutely horrendous. But then you get moving, 20, 25, 30 minutes in. You don't even, after you do it a few times, you're not affected by it.
So that's fine. Many folks don't have a backyard pool. What do you do on event day? What should they do on event day knowing that you have colder water?
Well, you need to take those precautions. Like we said, you wear a neoprene cap. You wear maybe 2 caps. What I like to do, what you don't like to do, but I like to do, is I put Vaseline over any exposed skin. I don't put it on my palms or the bottom of my feet, but I put it on my face. I put it on my nose. I don't put it above my goggles at all. I put it on the top of my hands, the top of my feet, and that helps repel the water off of and not absorb into the skin.
What about adaptation before you get into the water, or while you're getting into the water, to sit there and make sure your head gets beneath the surface?
Well, what you like to do is make sure that you go dunk before the start. In Oceanside, you have that opportunity. You can go to the beach side and dunk in.
Yes.
Some people,
I think it's super important.
Jacqueline Bildo actually brings ice water, and she puts it down her down her wetsuit,
But
just expose her to some cold.
That's fine, but it
beforehand.
doesn't take care of the ice cream headache.
No, it doesn't. So you got to find that water. And
Yes.
that being said, if you don't have access to getting into the water beforehand, when you do start and your rolling starts happen, you don't get in and take it out like a bat out of hell.
Correct.
You get in and you ease into it. You swim slower than you think you should be swimming.
Well, you just want to hold your head up because you're so cold. You just your head's screaming in pain.
Right.
You almost want to just swim with the feeling is I don't want to put my head in the water. Right.
Yeah, totally.
It's
Well, yeah,
there's
and that's
no
where
fun.
that's where you start to lose your breath. You get
Right.
nervous, and that's where the hyperventilation happens. We had athlete have the hyperventilation, but we do a pre-race talk before all these races, and we laid it out there. We say, hey, if the hyperventilation happens, you lose your breath. Just relax, float for a second. Your breath will come back to you. The heart rate will come down, and then you can ease back into your stroke.
The net of this was, I remember way back when, guys, in the 80s, I was doing some races in San Diego, in fact, and it was close to the wintertime. It was in the upper 50s, and there were no wetsuit allowed, right?
Yeah. Whoa.
And I remember having a horrible experience, and I backed into the solution, and the solution was, well, if I'm hopping into the water with no warm-up, right?
Yeah.
And start swimming, and I'm getting that ice cream headache, and I feel like my head's going to explode, and it's so highly uncomfortable, as you know. I thought, well, wait a minute. The next time, why not get into the water ahead of the race start, dunk my head below, keep it there until the ice cream headache comes on, deal with it pre-race.
Yeah.
Get rid of it while I'm just standing in the water. Get rid of it so by the time the race goes off, I'm ready to race.
Yeah.
And after that, that's what I did every single time for cold water. So if that opportunity presents itself where you can get into the water ahead of time, that is what you need to do.
Well, it's like me swimming in the backyard pool. The first couple minutes was absolute hell. But then once your body acclimates to it, you're fine. I could go forever. I could go for an hour back there in my wetsuit on, and I'd be fine. But those first couple minutes when the first thing you want to do when that face hits the water is pick it up.
Yes.
It is pins and needles in your face.
And that's just delaying.
Yeah.
So now let's go specifically.
Wait, one last thing, booties. I'm not a big believer in booties. I feel like when I wear booties, I'm swimming with paper,
Weights
wet plastic bags or
Yeah.
weights on my feet. It's like when we were at TriFit years ago, you had to swim in shoes.
Yes.
That's exactly because they absorb the water, they catch the water, and
Yes.
it feels like you have a parachute on. I think you're better off putting some Vaseline on your feet, on the top of your feet, and just letting the feet warm up as you get onto the bike, rather than putting booties on and just carrying that parachute around for 2K, 4K.
So a review: no booties, extra swim cap or neoprene cap if you're comfortable with the strap, thicker wetsuit, right?
Yep.
Vaseline, head dunk. Oh, and it's not just a head dunk. You put it in for 1 second. You put it in for several seconds. You pick it back up. You put it back in. You hold it on the water. You want to get the ice cream headache effect in play.
Yep. Totally.
So these are all the things, right?
Yep.
Core warm. Now let's get to Oceanside specifically, because this is helpful. Because if you know the dynamics of the race, if you've done your homework, and you should,
Yeah.
because you're there the morning, even if you didn't know the course prior, you're now on the race course. You're seeing what transition looks like. Once you get out of the swim, everyone, you want to get to your bike, and you want to get things moving along.
Right.
And so there's a little bit added anxiety. But as we know, at Oceanside, it's a narrow funnel, and you almost can't pass anyone running. And it is a pretty long
Yeah,
run
it's very
with a
tight.
zigzag.
Yeah.
So you have to know, well, here's the reality. I'm just going to have to run a little bit slower, right?
Yep.
And calm yourself down, because if you didn't think about that at the beginning, that ups the anxiety, right?
Right.
You're just more anxious. I can't get around Joe or Jenny in front of me, and you're getting frustrated.
Yep.
And by the time you get to your bike, then you've perhaps forgotten what you're going to get into now, which is the process.
Mm-hmm.
What happens the moment you get to your bike? What are the steps that you're going to take them through in the transition? And what do you need to do prior to the start of the race to get yourself set up?
Right. Well, first thing you want to do, you all have to go. Everyone has to go to the transition area the day before you drop your bike off. So what you want to do the day before, everything's set up in transition.
Or the day off for some races who don't.
Day up, yeah.
Right.
Or in the morning before the race. We were talking Ironman, half Ironman, but if it's Santa Barbara, Malibu, or Zuma Tri, Long Beach, you get there in the morning. The first thing you want to do is look at the route from the swim out into the transition area to your bike rack, where your bike is racked, and then from the bike rack to the bike out, right? Know the route that you're going to take to that. From the bike in, and all this is marked in the transition area, to your bike rack again, and then from the bike rack to the run out, right?
So
you
familiarity.
do your homework
Yes.
with the route that you are going to be completing when everything is discombobulated. And make sure you're paying attention to where that rack is in the transition area, because it looks a lot different when you're coming in from the swim and there's thousands of bikes there.
That's correct.
And then you're coming in from the bike and there's no bikes there, right? So
How do you identify your bike?
I always look for stagnant markers, maybe a palm tree or an outhouse or a set of stands or a light fixture, something I say, okay, that's parallel with where my bike is or around where my bike is on the rack. So I can look at that palm tree and say, my bike is right near that my bike rack is right near that palm tree or right near that, light standard or whatever it may be, because I know that's not going to move. Don't pick Joe Schmo who's standing there the day before.
I started seeing a bunch of balloons on bike racks.
Well,
it started looking like a party for a while.
They don't allow that at many Ironman races anymore. Some people put chalk on there, or you can count the bike racks. I know I'm 5 bike racks in from the transition. Those are things you can do where you don't have to recognize your specific bike, because they look the same when the blood to the brain is low. So
familiarize. Let's do a quick little recap. Familiarize yourself with the exit from the swim to your bike, and then the exit again from your bike out onto the course.
Right.
And same thing for bike to run, and then also make sure that you know the location where you're racked.
Right.
Do your particular
exactly.
intake of what that's like.
Because then when you start executing this on race day, you don't have to think. It's all in the back of your head, because the last thing we're going to get to is visualization. We'll get there last. But we don't want you to have to think as much, because everything is so crazy. You get in there, you get in, you get out, you don't think, you execute, you're fast, but you're not hasty. But it all comes down to having it all in place beforehand.
So you got that all in place. You've done your homework. The race goes off. You exit the water on the out of the swim. What are you doing as you exit the water?
So this is. Let's back up 1 second. We want to talk about the setup of the transition area first, because when you get to your bike in the morning, you got to know exactly how you're going to put your bike shoes, your helmet, your sunglasses, your run shoes, your race belt, the nutrition you're taking, and this comes weeks beforehand. You go through, you take all your gear that you're going to have, and you only take the gear you're going to have. You don't bring a bucket, you don't bring a stool, you don't bring somebody else's stuff. You don't bring everything you think you might need. You only bring what you need into that transition area, because everything else is just going to cause the chaos.
And it's
race
clutter
morning.
too. Yeah.
It's clutter. We don't want clutter. You want to be fast but not hasty, and that clutter just
that's a John Wooden quote. Quick without being hasty.
Yeah. So all that clogs the process. We want to keep the process efficient. Only the things you need. Prior to race, weeks prior for the race, you set up exactly what you're going to do in your transition area: your bike shoes, your helmet, your sunglasses, your run shoes, your race belt, your nutrition, your socks, anything you need. You put it exactly how you're going to do it. So race morning, you take it out of your transition bag, you put it there. It's a no-brainer.
So tell me, how do you set yours up?
So your bike is racked. I put my helmet on top of my bike. I know it's there. I take my bike shoes. I put them right.
Tell me where you're putting your helmet.
I put it right on. It depends on the race. Some races you have to rack it by the saddle. Some races you have to rack it by the handlebars. So whatever's facing out towards the aisle is what I put that helmet on, right?
Gotcha.
So I put it either on the seat, or I put it on the handlebars, and I leave it open, right? And I make sure I put it on race morning to make sure it fits my head, because sometimes when you're traveling, it gets cinched down. Maybe the
strap
gets tight or something. So you put it on, you make sure it all fits okay. Then you rack it on your bike.
Okay.
Then you put your shoe. I put my bike shoes. I never put my shoes on the bike. If you are not comfortable putting your shoes on while you're riding, don't even think about it. If you run with your shoes on, you look like a moron for 2 seconds. It's a lot better than looking like a moron when you crash on your bike because you're trying to put your shoes on your bike. We don't clip our shoes on the pedals unless you're extremely experienced at doing it, and maybe you've done it at the Olympic level. Everybody else shouldn't be doing that. So I put my bike shoes right next to my bike, and that's pretty much it. I don't really put anything else on. Maybe my sunglasses if I'm not using my visor on my aero helmet. But other than that, simple. Bike shoes, bike, helmet, that's it. On the opposite side, closer to the rack, that's where I put my run shoes. I put my run shoes, I put my race belt.
So that's behind
on the other side. So I have my bike shoes first, and then the run shoes here. So when I come back off of the bike, I don't have anything there except for my run shoes. I can rack the bike, grab the run shoe, grab my socks, grab my run shoes. I sit down.
So you have a clear delineation between one side for your swim bike transition and the other side for your bike run transition.
Right. So it's one layer for the bike, one layer for the run. so I can come back, sit down, put on my socks, put on my shoes, grab all the rest of my stuff, and leave the transition area. There's no brainer to it. I've practiced it. I've done it thousands of times. I've practiced in training.
Now, I'd like you to go through step by step. This is the Jim Lubinsky methodology. Right. You've exited so your system is set up.
Exactly.
Okay. You've got in your case, a towel or no towel. Some people I see bring towels and they put their stuff nicely laid out, whatever your thing is, on your setup. Now, you've exited the water. You've done your homework, Jim. You know, let's take Oceanside. You know it's a more slender pathway. You could somewhat pass somebody, but it's not easy to do. And you've probably got at least a minimum of a minute of running.
Yeah.
Right? What are you doing in that minute, the moment you exit the water?
So being racing professional for 16 years, I was pretty much, and how many races have I done? You can see them back here. Those are all professional races, and I think every single one I was last out of the water. I knew every second counted in transition, Gerry.
Yes.
And you can brag about me in a second, but in these races, I always had one of the fastest transitions out of everybody in the entire race.
Always.
Because I knew...
Still do. Your transitions now as an amateur are faster than pros.
Well, that's because it's ingrained in my psyche as to how I had to execute these transitions. Because I knew if I was coming out minutes back, I had to make every second count.
And in case no one's gotten this yet, this is your free time. Okay.
Free.
This is your free time to make up.
Exactly. They could
free
swim
time.
30, a minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes faster, but I could be 30 seconds faster in transition because I look at the race as swim, transition, bike, transition, run, transition. It's all part of the race. There's not a break when you get in the transition area. So you're quick. The minute I get out of the water and I get my wits about me, which might take 15 seconds, I start zipping down my wetsuit.
Yep.
I take the wetsuit off. I don't even take my maybe I flip my goggles up, but I don't take my hat and my goggles off first. I take the wetsuit off as I'm running. I strip it down, and we heard.
And you strip it down. Where are you stripping it down to?
Strip it down to my waist.
To your waist.
I have it folded down. I have it down over my, almost to the top of my butt crack. I have it down as far as.
So you got
go.
right belly button a little lower. So the sleeves are hanging, and then you've got your cap on still, perhaps.
Exactly. Keep the cap on. There's no reason to take that stuff off yet. Take your wetsuit off as you're running. And now we heard some things.
Wetsuit off meaning it goes down to your waist only.
Halfway down.
Okay.
So take it halfway down as you're running. You're also your heart
got a
rate's
minute.
high.
In this case, you got a minute or more to do this.
And you're running, so it doesn't have to be like right away. But as you let that heart rate starts to even, you become less discombobulated from going from that horizontal to vertical position, you can start doing it because it's a long run.
And there's also less anxiety because now you're actually doing something. As like your buddy was talking about yesterday. He's getting frustrated because he couldn't pass anybody.
Yeah.
If he was doing his wetsuit stuff, he'd be less frustrated, right?
Yeah, totally. But there's always going to be people in the way, right?
Yes.
I'm never the first person out of the water. That's where your voice has to come in too. On your left, on your left, on your left, on your left. People know you're racing and they respect the fact that you're racing. Nobody's getting PO'd that you're passing them because you want to run a little faster than them, right? So it's narrow, but there's always room, and you can always use your voice on your left, on your left, on your left, on your left. They can move over, and you can keep sprinting right through them. But you have to be a little maybe outside your comfort zone, and not rude. You're not running them over, but you just have to be vocal about hey, I want to make every second count. Maybe you have different goals than me. My goal is to bust through transition and have the fastest transition.
Well, this is the free time podcast. So
free time, and then you know where your bike is, you shoot right to your bike, and that's where you get the rest of the wetsuit down. You have it halfway down, and maybe when you're almost at your bike, you have that at the bottom of your hips, right? You bring it down as far as you can as you're approaching that bike. So when you get to the bike, you come down the rest of the way, you slip it over one heel, you step on your wetsuit, you slip it over the other heel. I sit down, put on my bike shoes, stand back up, grab my bike, or put on my helmet, grab my bike. So
I'm going to even back up to more detail. You've stepped on one leg, you got it out, you got the other leg out. What do you do with your wetsuit then?
Just kick it right under your bike. You don't worry about it. You don't worry about hanging it. It's going to be there. You know the transition area is closed to everybody except for racers. Don't worry about it. Kick it out of the way so nobody trips on it. But other than that, you don't worry about it. Sit down. Put
ITU races, they got to put it in their bucket.
Put it in the bucket.
There's a process
Some races,
for those guys.
In Mexico, they have races. You have to put it in the bucket. So just pay attention to the race detail. But then put your shoes on, grab your bike.
So you're sitting down at this point, and then you have your stuff lined up in the process. Yeah. I believe that you're putting it on, right? You have it lined up exactly how you're putting it on.
There's nothing else.
What's your process? What's your You've now sat down. Your wetsuit's off. You're in your swimsuit only.
I sit down. I put my my shoes on, right? I clip them up. I stand up. I put my helmet on. You're not allowed to grab your bike until you have your helmet on.
Right.
I clip the helmet, I grab the bike, and I go. I go to that exact route I took to the
Sunglasses?
bike out. Depends on the race. Maybe I'll have sunglasses, so I'll throw the sunglasses on, then the helmet. If I'm using my visor, I don't put the visor on until I get going, right? I throw my helmet on, I get going on the bike, and a mile in, I'll flip my visor down.
Got it.
There's no reason to do that stuff that you can do while you're moving, which we'll get into when we go through T2.
So I believe, I can't recall, Jim, if it were last year or the year before, whenever you did Oceanside last, your transition was somewhere around 3 minutes. And I didn't check the facts, so somebody's probably going to check me, which is fine. But let's say it was 3 minutes and 20 seconds. We were talking yesterday for a 10-minute transition, right? How is it possible to have 7 minutes slower in transition?
It's just, you get caught in this lull, right? You get caught in the just lollygag. I'm put one shoe. I can't get this shoe on. I'm going to take this shoe on. Maybe you sit there for an extra minute. Maybe you don't wait. Maybe you're so cold you don't take your wetsuit off till you get to your bike, and then your fingers don't work so well.
And you remember last year, where was the World Championships? Was it in New Zealand?
New Zealand. Exactly.
7 minutes. What would have that was a very competitive race, right? How much places would 7 minutes make at the end of a race?
30 places.
I mean, it was so crazy, the tightness of finishes. So for who we were talking about with yesterday, this was a 7 minute delta differential between your transition and theirs.
Well, that's what I was trying to say, is we work so hard for all the time we make up on the course, and then you just burn it all in transition by not making the most of that part of the race.
So I think for first races of the season, the very first race, or even if you're an absolute new triathlete, this is free time.
Yeah, totally.
This is total free time. Write your process out. Every single thing you're going to do in the order that you're going to do it. Memorize it and practice it.
Practice it and visualize it. After you go to the transition, visualize exactly how it's going to work, how you're going to feel coming out of the water, what you're going to do as you're running down the chute, what you're going to do when you get to your bike, what you're going to do when you take your bike to bike out. Then when you come in, are you going to take your feet out of the shoes while you're riding? Is that something you're comfortable with? Or are you going to take them out when you get to that mountain line? When you get back to your bike rack in T2, how are you going to take your stuff off? How are you going to put your stuff on?
Let's go through that in a moment, but I want to bring something up that I used to do, and I think you came to some of those workouts when we had all the I2 boys swimming,
those were fun,
training with us.
Out in the ocean.
Out in the ocean. We would then go do a transition practice after.
Yeah.
And those guys are quick, as you know. They're out of their wetsuits in 8 seconds, right? And they're on their bikes and they're gone. Their transitions are lightning fast. What we would do with these guys and they were organized, just like you were saying, everything's set up perfectly. So while they're off on their bikes, and because we did the swim bike and the bike run transitions.
Yeah.
Let's say they were on the bike, I would then go, maybe they'd have their shoes together, sit in a certain spot. I would leave one shoe there and then move another shoe 4 or 5 feet away. I would do things to F them up, okay?
Yeah.
Because I want to create confusion. I want to create craziness for them. I want them to be out of sorts to see how they're going to react to that happening. Yeah. And we want to be able to teach coolness, right? In fact, I heard there was a tweet today, be cool.
Yeah.
Did you hear about that? I heard that coming from somebody up top.
I didn't hear that, but it's probably talking about me.
Yeah. How to stay managed and be calm. So we would kind of mess up their transition area purposely to see how they react to it.
Yeah.
So, but point is, have everything lined up really well and expect at times they're going to have some mishaps. Somebody may have come in ahead of you and knocked your stuff out of play.
Yeah.
Right? That may happen.
And that's what it actually taught me, how to be fast in transitions, training with those guys. Because I'm not an ITU guy. I don't have to put my shoes on the bike or jump on like that. And I was always way behind them when we were practicing those with Sean and Nick and whoever else decided to join that week. But it just ingrained this sense of speed in the transition area by training with those guys. So maybe train with athletes who you couldn't fathom how fast they are in transition. Train with them and see how they do it, right? Come train with me, see how I do my transition, and try and be half the speed, and I'll give you $100. I don't think they could do it. It's a challenge, Jer.
I like it.
Yeah, but if you look at someone like Brian Mione. Brian's had a lot going on. He's helping the recovery in the Palisades. He's building houses in San Diego. He's got a family. He's all over the place. He's not in the prime fitness, but he went in and he had one of the fastest transitions in his age group, and he made up a ton of time. He kept that edge. He made every second count. He was racing it. We talked about it beforehand. This is an opportunity for you guys maybe you're a slower swimmer, maybe you're a slower biker, maybe you're a slower runner. You can make up time, and it's hard to catch up on that time when you're out there on the course laying it on the line.
So let's go back to basics again. One of the things we left out, swim the bike, your bib and your number. How do you have that set up?
The only race I've ever raced that you need your bib on the bike is Oceanside, because that's something that Camp Pendleton makes
requires, right?
It requires. Other than that, you leave the race belt on to put on in T2.
Right.
Now let's talk about T2. When you
Right. So now you're coming back in.
So you get off your bike.
Well, let's back up. Let's back up to the 2 minutes before you get off.
So you
What's
know
your plan?
the way. Now this is key. Where like Oceanside, it has a pretty technical lead into the dismount line. So you have to know that you're riding the same run path you took into T1 to T2, right? So you have to know that you have a longer area. A lot of races, you think you're going to dismount at one area, and then they route you around and you dismount somewhere else. So know where the dismount line is. Otherwise, there's a chance you could take your shoes off 2 miles early because you pass the transition. You got to go to U-turn and come back. Some people who take their shoes off while they're riding, then they're riding on top of their shoes for 2 miles because they didn't know the route, the transition. So know where you're going to dismount and the lead into that dismount. And then visualize, okay, I'm going to take my feet out of my shoes here at this point in the course, so it's not too early and it's not too late. That's something I can do in, less than 2 seconds, get my feet out. If that's something you're not comfortable with.
30-second backup?
30, 45 seconds just to be safe, but know where you're going to do it. If that's something you're not comfortable with, then you're just clipping your shoes out at the dismount line. Yep. So know how you're going to ease into that dismount line, stop, unclip one shoe, unclip the other shoe, safely get off the bike. And then what route you're going to take to your bike rack again while you have your bike, right? So
you've done all of this prep ahead.
Right, all this stuff.
This visualization.
Right, you know where you're taking those feet out. You know if you're clipping, unclipping at the mount line. You know that route you're taking with your bike. Now you have your bike. Now you get to your bike rack.
Yes.
You rack that bike as fast as you can. You don't back it in and put it on the seat. I take it and I just throw that thing on the rack. It catches on the brake hoods, and then I worry about it afterwards. But
all right.
You don't have to be so neat when you get to there.
Dainty.
You rack that bike. You take I sit down. I saw Justin Reel at Oceanside,
yes.
right? And he was a pro race. He had a great bike.
Yep.
Maybe too good of a bike. But he went into the transition area, and he had a really fast transition, but he stood up to put his socks and shoes on. I mean, do you ever stand up to put your socks and shoes on?
Never.
No, you sit down and you put your socks and shoes on. Sit down.
But Justin comes from an I2 background.
But he put socks and shoes on, too. And I'm like, I think he could have been a little quicker. Just maybe he couldn't have been. Maybe it's just what he has practiced, and that's what he's comfortable with, and that's what's important. But I think watching it, he could have been a little quicker if he sat down, put his socks on, put his shoes on, grab the rest of your stuff.
Well, if he put socks on, then he should have probably sat down,
right.
Unless he practiced. Many of those guys don't; they just go right to their shoes off. But go ahead, sorry.
Right, and that's the thing too. If you run in shoes when you're if you run in socks in your training, you run in socks on race day. Wear your socks, because a blister could ruin that race. It could ruin the training for the next few weeks. Wear socks if that's what you're accustomed to doing. But sit down, you rack your bike, you sit down, you take your helmet off while you're sitting down, you put on your socks, you put on your shoes, and then you grab everything else, your race belt, your sunglasses, your nutrition, and you get out of there. You put all that other stuff on while you're running. There's no reason to stand at your rack and put all that stuff on and waste time.
So you've sat down, you meet, as you sit down, well, you come in with your bike. When do you take your helmet off? What's your process?
I sit down, I take my helmet off while I'm sitting down.
While you're sitting down. So you sit down, you take the helmet off, you put it there. Then you go to socks and shoes.
And also helmet too. That doesn't have to be hung real nice. Take it and put it right where your bike is. You just put it on the ground. You'll get it afterwards.
Okay.
Only people allowed in the transition area are athletes. So.
All right. So you've dunked the helmet. You've got the socks on. You've got the shoes on, and then you just grab your stuff, and that's it.
Grab your stuff. Mulcahy puts his stuff in a little Ziploc bag, and he grabs the Ziploc bag, and then he runs out of transition. I just grab it in my hand. I run out of transition.
So as you're running, you put the race belt on.
I'm using my mouth. I'm holding my hat or my headband in my mouth. I'm putting the race belt on. All the nutrition I'm sticking in pockets. Yeah.
So so you're spending as little time as possible at your bike.
Yeah.
So all the time.
T2 is 30 seconds at the most, depending on the length of it, but 30 seconds. I think I did a race in Ventura last year.
But I mean, the time at your bike. Let's remove the riding in and the running out. You're actually on the ground for just a few seconds. To get your helmet off and get your shoes and socks on, and then you're out. So you're a handful of seconds, and then while you're exiting transition, off onto the
everything
run.
else is happening.
That's when you're doing all the action.
I don't start my watch until all that other stuff is on. You don't. Your watch doesn't have to be to the second. If you start your watch after you get everything, all that stuff on, and you want that watch to be changed over to the run mode or starting and keeping your pace and keeping your heart rate. You don't start all that until you get everything on. That could be way past that run out banner.
So what I got out of this from you in these lightning fast transitions, I mean, which I'm always totally impressed with your transitions. Very little time on the mat or on the ground. Let's say you sit down after you've taken your wetsuit off, you go down and quickly get your shoes on, helmet on, and then you grab your stuff and then you're onto your bike.
Right.
And you're getting out.
Yeah.
Same thing. You come back in, you sit down, helmet off, socks on, shoes on, pick your stuff up, and then you're fixing it on the way out. So you have very, very low mat time.
Right.
I'm using the word mat for whether it's a cement or whatever you have on the ground there, or nothing, right? You're just on your ass for a short time.
Right. It's up, down, and up. And the thing is, you're coming off of 56 miles, 24 miles, 30 miles, 112, whatever it may be. The last thing you want to think about is, oh, man, now I got to go run. But you're going to do it anyway. So why are you just sitting there and belaboring the point? Is that the right word, belaboring?
That's a good word.
When you're going to do it anyway. So you might as well get moving and get on your way and stop just saying, oh, my God, now I got to run this long.
So in this
just get
race,
moving.
this weekend, last weekend, went by Oceanside, 7 minutes you would have made up on the T1 transition and probably 3 minutes in T2.
Yeah.
It's 10 minutes.
Yeah. 10 minutes. Imagine how hard you have to work to make 10 minutes in
free
your
time.
run. Yeah.
Free time.
Totally.
I mean, you have to practice it. You got to write it down. You got to know the process. You have to your point, you have to visualize it, but it's free time.
Yeah.
So in other words, that's like the gun goes off and somebody let you start 10 minutes ahead. Right?
Totally.
That's basically what you've got. You've got a 10-minute head start by having this very eloquent and smooth and silky, well-rehearsed, well-practiced transition periods.
You have to frame it in your mind as just as much of the race as swimming, biking, running. Because if you're making up 10 minutes on somebody else, how much harder would you have to work to make up 10 minutes in the swim, in the bike, in the run, add all that up? It's pretty darn hard.
What's your psyche like in those transitions? Do you have blinders on where you're just in your zone, or you're sort of looking around comparing yourself to others?
Totally. I don't even think.
Exactly.
I just go and do. There's no looking around. There's no
Perfect.
paying attention to where I am amongst the competitors. It's just
you
what
do
I
your
have
thing,
to do.
because if you're looking around, you're going to start fussing and missing things and dropping stuff and forgetting to put something on and So
and
you're in your zone. It's as if the 2,000 other people are not even there.
No, it's just it's me and me alone, and I do what I have to do, and I get out. And when I get on my bike and I start turning the pedals, that's where I can start, dialing into my feel, like loosening up from any tightness that might have happened on the swim, getting my wits about me, starting to get my nutrition in. But I don't have to think about that in transition. In transition, the one goal is to get in and get out of there. And then you can start to process everything as you get moving on the bike and as you get moving on the run.
Maybe we label this podcast, How to Get a 10-Minute Head Start.
I like that. That's good, yeah.
How to get a 10-minute head start.
This time of year, we always say the season's like a fireworks show, right? We want the grand finale in the fall when all the big races happen, right? This type of race, Oceanside, Texas, Florida, all these early season races, maybe your fitness isn't top notch, which it shouldn't be. What are the things that we can control on race day? And transition's one of them. Practicing the transition, practicing what works, what doesn't work. And this is the type of thing that you can really hone in on. So when the money's on the line and you're at a world championship or you want that big PR come the Santa Barbara Triathlon, this stuff is dialed in.
Are you taking in... Do you have nutrition built into your transitions?
There's no reason to take nutrition in transition. I can take a gel on the bike just as if I can take a gel standing there in transition. So why would I stand there and take it?
Understood. Right? I'm just asking how you do it.
I'm just saying, because you see people sitting there and they stand at their rack and they're sucking on a gel. Like, why are you standing at your rack sucking on a gel?
You could be doing that while you're running out.
Move and be moving towards the finish line as you're taking that gel.
So everything's prepped. Your gels are sitting there waiting to be picked up. Everything's set.
Same thing on the run. Maybe you say, I can't take a gel when I'm running. get moving, and then slow down as you're walking on the course. Take your gel and then get back into your run. There's no reason to stand at that rack, drink a water bottle, take a gel, eat a banana. You can do all that stuff while you're moving.
All right, guys, you've just heard it from the transition master, how to have lightning fast transitions.
And now we're doing these live. Maybe we do a live transition. I give you a camera. We tie into the OBS software here, and I show you a transition out on the road.
It's perfect.
Huh? How we do that?
Perfect. I like it.
Could you?
I like it. I like it. So there's a free 10 minutes for you on your transitions. You remember Eric Reed?
Oh, I know Eric Reed, yeah.
Yeah. 17-minute transition up at Northern California in one of his races. When I saw the transition, I couldn't believe it. I said, what'd you do, pull out a tablecloth and set up some china and have some lunch?
Well, the day after Ironman, Mike Riley always does his little spiel, and he goes over the longest transitions on Ironman day. And there'll be occasionally, it's the beginning part of his like jelly beaning, welcoming the crowd. There'd be people that sit in transition for an hour. And what was this guy doing for an hour? What do you do? I mean, they got to be trying to be in transition that long. Yeah. Just wasted time. But you work too hard to blow all that hard work by not making every second count. But we're talking about things that you can control in these early season races. Transition's one of them. Nutrition is another one, right? Yes. I can't tell you how many athletes, and we have precision hydration right here. I have all of our athletes on precision hydration, but we go over in detail. We have them do the precision hydration planner that we have in the show notes. You click on that planner. It gives you exactly what you should be taking, carbohydrates, electrolyte-wise, for your specific race, for your specific event, for your specific body type, for your specific sex. It gives you everything that you need. It gives you the plan. It tells you how you should be executing that nutrition. You go in, we practice it. And then we have athletes go on race day, and they don't execute the way they've practiced, right? They miss their gels, they miss their electrolytes, and then they wonder why halfway through the run, their performance went from here to here, right? It's because they didn't execute the plan that we had laid out there for them. So Go to that planner that we have in the show notes, precisionhydration.com. You'll get 15% off if you click on that link in our show notes. Or you can just go in and put in TW 2025 for 15% off. But nutrition is something that we need to practice. Swim, transition, bike, transition, run, transition. Nutrition is just as much part of it, and you guys need to be dialed into that.
And by the way, this is why we have some of the fastest transitions, because of our beach workouts that we're getting ready to start soon.
Yeah.
That exit because it's that blow-up heart rate that occurs once you exit the swim to run to the bike, right? So that's a big part of training, specificity of training, preparation for what it's like to be horizontal swimming and then stand up and be vertical and have to run.
But it doesn't change. You never adapt to that feeling. You always go from horizontal to vertical and you feel like your chest is going to explode. But the more you can practice it, the more you can anticipate that feeling, the more you can run through it and know, hey, I'm going to come out on the other side.
Yep.
I'm going to be fine. I've practiced this 1,000 times.
Yes.
But if the first time you do it is race day, you go from horizontal to vertical, you run up that ramp at Oceanside, and then all of a sudden you have to run a quarter mile that way.
You almost have a cardiac.
You're the person that's walking on the side, or you're bent over the fence, feeling like your head's going to explode, your heart's going to explode, your chest's going to explode. So practice those things you know you're going to encounter, be prepared for them, so then when the race day comes, and we're not talking top of the podium on all these. We're talking, maybe you just want a PR. Maybe you just want to finish. Every single race, someone comes up to me and says, if I only would have been 2 minutes faster in transition, I would have PR'd.
But we're talking about 10 minutes of free time. Huge. I mean, that's the net of it.
Totally.
It's free time. Totally. Whatever time, if you take 4 hours to do a race, it's now 350. Yeah. If you take, 2.5 hours to do an Olympic race, it could be, it's not going to be quite 10 minutes in an Olympic, but you get the idea. You've got multiple minutes of free time.
From the moment you get in that water to the moment you cross the finish line, you're racing. Don't take 1 second for granted.
Love it.
So, you want to get in some videos here?
Yeah, let's do a little video.
Who we got first? Remember, send your videos, Gerry, Gerry at tower26.com. We're getting a lot of submissions, so thank you for sending those in.
Let's start off with some good swimming from a guy who doesn't have a swim background, who came to us a number of years ago, and non-swimmer in the sense didn't swim competitively. But this is Jim. I mean, take a look at Ricardo here. This is some beautiful swimming, right?
So beautiful. I took a video of him last week, and I was just like, Ricardo, this is...
I mean, for a guy who doesn't... He's swimming 120s this morning in workout, right? Pretty comfortable, relaxed. I mean, so let's go through some of the good stuff with him just so folks can look at this. Good head position, right?
Yep.
Right hand entering right there in front of the right shoulder. He extends forward. Head turns to breathe. It's good. Let me bring this in tighter for us. It may be easy. There we go. Slight cross, but he fixes it immediately. Capturing the breath right there. Arm extended.
Yep.
Nice high elbow. Everything nice and tight and lined up. He's got a little, very, very, very small arc here. Small, right? Can fix that just slightly, but generally good.
Yep, good high elbow on the recovery. I like that high elbow recovery.
Yep, very high elbow.
Fingertip entry.
Fingertip entry, left hand enters really well. Extends forward, downward.
Yep.
Goes into his setup. It's all good.
Yeah, and so Ricardo's been really dialed into the process, right? There's not one stroke that he's not mindful of how he's moving. I tell him to work on something, and he works on it for every single stroke for that hour and a half, however long we're swimming. And this is key. And you see the results here. If you're listening on the audio version, we're showing this on the Tower 26 YouTube video, so you can go into episode 130 and see this video Coach Gerry's going over.
Yeah.
So go ahead. What do you have written on the screen?
Nice clear line right here, right?
So Gerry made a line right down the screen from his head to his toes. It's one straight line. He's not coming out of alignment.
And he hasn't rotated too much. Sometimes when you rotate too much, what you find is the splay between these legs get really wide. In other words, this other leg here ends up being further outside, right? That's not the case. So it's really well. Nice, taut posture, good alignment. It's good swimming.
Yep.
So good job on Ricardo. Now let's go to Welby. One of our members took some time off from triathlon. He's back. And let's play him in real time so you'll get a sense of him. This is him swimming really easy. He's the person on the left.
So non-wetsuit. Very easy coming at the camera right now. Yeah. So what are you seeing?
So I wanted to show this because sometimes when we swim easy, Jim, as you know, we can focus more on detail, right? In this case, it was interesting to see as he swam easy, what happened with his right hand on the water. Take a look. Could you see this floppiness going on? Right hand?
Yep.
Outside and then floppy.
Out. Yep.
And then let's come in again. Right hand goes out, and then it gets soggy right there, and the wrist gets soft. Do you see it?
Yep, I see that.
It just gets floppy. Yeah, there you go. You can see it right there. If we had a side view of this, it'll be his wrist is bent back. So it's soggy. There's zero tension, right?
Yep.
Yep. So he needs to work on that.
But if you take a bucket of water and you lift it up, it's heavy, right?
Yes.
Water is heavy. If you're not keeping that firmness in your stroke, in your wrist, in your hand, the water's going to have its way with your hand, with your arm. You have to grip it and pull it back and realize, hey, if this is a bucket of water, that's a lot of weight to move front to back. I can't be soggy. You got to move. You got to keep nice and firm and grab that water and pull it behind you.
So, said differently, got to have decent tension. Now, here's Welby part 2, when he was, let's take him here, swimming at a higher rate. Again, he's on your left.
Yep.
Comes in.
Coming a little faster.
A little push off here. We'll take a look from behind, which will get some alignment issues here that we'll see.
Yep. He's squirming in the back half.
He's a lot of squirming, right?
His legs are splaying. His hips are out of alignment.
Yep.
You can really see it as he's swimming away from the camera.
Yes. So here now, if you look at that right hand, it still goes a little too far wide. It's the right hand on the water, but it's not as floppy as it was. So he had better tension as he went faster, which was good. But you can start seeing here, which we will pick up Jim from behind. Right?
Right.
There's the arc.
So from his head to his heels, he looks like a banana.
Yeah, exactly.
You're looking at him from the front on. So his hips are coming way out of alignment.
Yeah, so we have to do, there's a softness, a sogginess in his posture that we're going to have to clear up. And we see that especially swimming away from us. We're going to see it right here. All right? If you take
so you guys got to remember, when we're looking at Welby, you see the hips. He looks like a banana swimming away from us. We got to keep that core engaged. We talked about this on the 2 p.m. call yesterday. Try to keep that neutral spine. Your hips, tip your hips under you, and we want a neutral spine. So there's a good connection point between the upper body and the lower body. Right now, Welby's just kind of letting that core flop, and it's creating that banana shape.
So, and what does that do? And what does that mean? It just means he's taking up greater spatial volume in the water, thus much higher resistance, right? So we got to get Welby to straighten out this body, do some more tautness drills.
Well, I say it all the time. We want to be a torpedo, not a snake, right? If a head of a snake is going through the water, you see it slithering and it's not moving so fast. Torpedo is one straight line front head to toes.
And the rotation of the torso here is a little too high on the breath, and therefore the legs spread out a little bit further. So a few little things here for Welby, but generally he's been swimming much better. He's doing quite well. He's back.
Well, he's a strong guy. He's a strong guy. If he can apply that strength to the water, like like you said in the earlier video, if he can grip it and rip it and then get a little bit of tautness into the midsection, I think he can really improve that swim.
Now, by the way, I want to be kind to everybody that we review here from the perspective of if we took Michael Phelps and broke him down into these incremental steps, we would find flaws, okay?
Yeah, totally.
So when we go through this with a fine-tooth comb like we are, I mean, right here, take a look at Welby. He's straight right there, and then it starts wiggling. And what he has, interestingly, Jim, is Welby's got this big gap here between his head and his arm, right?
Yep.
And that gap creates a problem. It starts with there we go. We start getting into this arc, right?
Yep.
Which is not good. So a lot of these things, I will work on this next week when I see him and help him clean this up.
Right, and it's a swimmer by swimmer basis, but if we're focusing on the fundamentals that you've laid out there in our technical phase, tautness, alignment, propulsion, and we're really dialing into it. And the good thing is with every one of our workouts at coaching.tower26.com, they're all worked into every workout.
So here's John, final one. So I wanted to show John, here's an example of a lot of things that John's going to have to work on. But let's take John coming in here. He's breathing to the right. Now look at the big mistakes here. You guys, take a look at John's left hand on the water, right there, right hand above the water. They're in line with each other, okay? Yep. I mean, to the point of
So John's pulling,
right there.
He's pulling way under his body, almost like he's making a C to the side. He's making a C to the side.
It looks like he's cradling the baby.
Yeah.
I mean, wasn't that something you did in
Grandpa John
when you did your yo-yo back when? So this is. That arm is collapsed. So you talked about this in a prior podcast. His elbow is collapsed all the way into his side, into the rib cage, and his hand is all the way over to the other side. It's almost touching the lane line, right?
Yeah, there's no alignment.
Guys, this is an absolute no-no. I mean, it's totally collapsed. I'm actually shocked that back here he doesn't have, and I
back
just
on his rear deltoid, teres minor, teres major.
Doesn't have significant problems.
Yeah, so he's got a big pull happening while his head's out of the water. It's causing this major misalignment in the hands.
Boom.
Yep.
All right.
He's swimming like he's a helicopter. That's what Johnny's doing. So he's got to slow down that pull. He's got to get himself into alignment. He's got to work the tautness on the back half. I mean,
and here's
come on,
something
Johnny.
interesting that I picked up, which I think I showed you earlier. His legs actually, let's see if I can pick it up right here. His legs actually cross. There's that heel going under the other foot. See it?
Yep.
Right there, under the foot.
You know who swims with a cross kick is your buddy.
Beck.
Who's the open water swimmer that your buddy over swims a Culver?
My buddy, Alex Kostic.
Alex Kostic. He's got a cross kick. But
well, there is what's called a one-beat crossover kick. It's fine to have a crossover kick. This is different. This is something else going on here.
Yeah. We got to clean Johnny up here. We got to slow him down. But the thing is, John swims pretty fast. I mean, he's a lane 3 swimmer over here. If we can clean him up and get him swimming more efficiently,
I'm gonna get him cleaned up for sure.
Look at that.
Over the next
His
few
elbows
weeks.
are splashing. He's okay. Let's take Johnny off here.
So we're worked on it. So I want to do an after of Johnny in another month.
Okay, so we're gonna do it after Johnny. You guys remember, go to our YouTube channel and check out. We're back. Is that it?
Yep.
And check out those videos if you're listening. But tautness, alignment, propulsion. That's the key. Do we want to go over a workout of the episode today, Jerry?
We should probably just hit a workout that we've done many times before, Jim, that I made some modifications to. It's our typical Mambo. And I talked about this in our prior audio file. And it's something we've done on here, you guys, many times before.
Yeah, coaching.tower26.com. I think we spoke about the Mambo last one. What do we do on the...
We did the Mambo the last time also?
I think we did, but we breezed over it. I think
that's right. We were here. I was out of town, so you're absolutely right.
The way you adjusted it, let's just show our coaching at tower26.com was really interesting because I did the same thing when I went to the swim right after that episode, and the athletes really responded well to it. So maybe it'd be good to cover that again.
So what I did here was, so the set goes, you can notice up top, there's 4 100s, one at 70%, then 80%, then 70%, then fast. So simplistically stated, one easy, one moderate, one easy, one fast. And then the 80% effort, as you go up to the second round, it goes to a 200. And as you go to the third round, it goes to a 300. On the fourth round, a 400, right?
So it's four swims, an easy 100, an easy longer swim, or an easy 80% swim, an easy 100, then a 100 fast. So
I better not have you talk about this.
100 easy, an 80% swim, 100 easy, 100 fast.
Correct.
Every round, the 80% swim increases by 100.
It increases in volume, so 200 in round 2, 300 in round 3, and so on. What I decided to do is change that up a bit, where we just had a static distance for that 80%.
Yeah.
A static distance that was going to be about 5 minutes in duration. So for some athletes, it was a 400. For others, it was a 300. So it was a 80% effort, 5-minute swim, approximately a 400. Recovery swim, high octane 100, hit it hard, above 90% of maximum heart rate, and then an easy recovery. And we did that 5 or 6 rounds through. Yeah, so it's another way to do this set and have a little more consistency. One of the reasons, Jim, when I created this workout, that I went 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, as you go up in volume and you get tighter, bigger volume towards the end and a bigger 80% distance, right?
Yeah.
Your fatigue's setting in. And this is where mechanics start breaking down.
Yeah.
And we can go back to this. And when mechanics start breaking down, we want to be super mindful, right? So the load is on. The workout has duration to it now, so you're getting fatigued. It does have intensity also. So we want to make sure we're completely mindful, right?
Yeah.
Towards the end. So.
And this is important because we talked about earlier the things you can control on race day. And
yes.
That mindfulness on the technique is one of the things we can control. If I had it ready to bring up, I would bring up the splits from Oceanside swim course. Go ahead.
I brought this up this morning, and you're going to get this, and we're going to pick on her, but she knows it's all with love. This morning, beautiful Megan, swims about in the middle of the pool, 20 strokes to the length, super consistent, really terrific. First length of her distance of a 300, 20 strokes, second length 20, 30, and she was consistent. Then a few lanes over was our dear friend Emily, that she started off at 24 strokes, and then she went to 28, and then she went to 32 strokes.
Yeah.
I mean, come on, from 24 to 32. I mean, this is,
yeah, that's just,
I mean, you're 30% over, right?
Well, when you start to fatigue, the first thing to start to go is that mindfulness.
And it's exactly, I stopped her. I said, what's going on? And guess what? Her mind was somewhere else. She said, you know what? I was thinking about something at work.
Yeah.
And she left being absolutely present, and then mechanics fell apart.
And you see that's like I was saying about Oceanside is halfway through the swim. What's half of 2,000? What's the half of 2,000?
I don't know. You're the mathematician.
1,000 meters into the swim, there was one pace. They come back. They start to get a little bit of current in the face. The sun's in their face. There's all these distractions happening. And pretty much every swimmer I looked at, their pace dropped off by 5, 10, maybe even 15 seconds per 100 on the way back in. And I think a lot of it has to do with the fatigue was up. They'd been in the cold water for some time. They had the sun. They had people all around them. They were over the swim at that point. They started to lose that mindfulness. They started to lose the focus on the technique, and it caused this retraction in the pace. So mindfulness, these are things that we can control in these early season races. Maybe you're not tip of the spear, maybe you're not as fast as you're going to be come the fall, but you can focus on how am I going to stay mindful from the beginning of the swim to that finish line.
Absolutely.
What can we control? All right, Gerry, what are we going to talk about next episode?
By the way, I like your hat.
Oh, that's why I wore it. Santa Barbara Triathlon.
I like your hat.
You guys, get on the Santa Barbara Triathlon.
I like that.
You know what we got to do at the Santa Barbara this year? We're going to do a live podcast from the Santa Barbara Tri. The beach in the background, the beautiful weather. We're going to have it on the mics. We're going to do it. That was huge when we did it in New Zealand, so we're going to do it.
And we did one of those at Kona, too, a number of years ago at the Kona Ironman World Championship.
So we're going to do it live
from
the Santa Barbara Tri. Sign up for the Santa Barbara Triathlon right now, happening August 23rd.
The most beautiful city in the world.
There's the most beautiful city, the most beautiful venue you've ever been to. There's plenty of lodging, and let's make an event of it. So you want to see you want to see how the nuts and bolts are. How the soup is made, is that what they say? Come see it, and you'll see a live podcast and race along the way. So SantaBarbaraTriathlon.com, sign up. Next episode, you know what I'm going to talk about what we're going to talk about next episode.
Sure.
You've coached so many pros over the years, Jer.
Yeah, a couple hundred.
Every single one of them need a specific plan, a specific fix to their stroke. I want to go over some pros in detail and see which ones you've helped. You've helped a lot of them, and as you talked about on the 2 p.m. call, you've helped them. They've strayed, and you've seen that help kind of go by the wayside because they've went down a different path. Not saying you have all the answers, but you have most of them.
No, of course not. You know, 1 year, about 10 years ago or so, about a decade back, before it went to equal field of men and women at Kona.
Yeah.
I think it was 32 women, 50 men, something like that back then. That year, I'd coached 50% of the women's field.
Yeah. And it's not
Women's
cookie
pro
cutter.
field.
It's not cookie cutter,
No,
but we'll
it's
get
not.
into some things. I have some ideas, so we'll talk about that on the next episode. Anything else from you, bud?
No, thank you very much, as
Hey,
always.
this is fun. I'm going to go hit the pool deck. I will see you soon. For Gerry Rodriguez, Jim Binsky, the Tower 26B Race Rig Podcast. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. Bye. All right, there we go.